Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at things from a pretty unique viewpoint through the eyes of Zoran, an ancient dragon.
Right, who, according to the source material we're exploring, has watched humanity grapple with perception for, well, ages.
And we're using that perspective as a lens for Dr. John DeMartini's work.
Exactly, diving deep into his insights.
Yeah, our mission today is really to pull out the key ideas on how universal laws, our values, and crucially, our perceptions work together to shape our reality.
And how we might, transform things we see as struggle or pain into something meaningful, purpose and power.
Think of it like getting a new perspective. Maybe a shortcut to seeing the balance the source suggests is inherent in everything, even challenges.
A new way to look at your own life, basically.
Okay, let's dive in. So this Zoran perspective, it immediately reframes struggle, doesn't it?
It really does. From that vast viewpoint, human struggle often seems less like this huge mountain.
And more like
a pebble in your shoe. Something annoying, maybe painful, but magnified mostly by our perception. The source uses that exact analogy, the pebble you haven't shaken out.
wow, okay. A pebble magnified by perception. That leads straight into a really core concept here, duality.
Yes, this idea that the universe is this constant dance of opposites.
Hot, cold, expansion, contraction, light, shadow, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And crucially, they aren't enemies. They're partners. They define each other. You wouldn't know up without down, right?
Makes sense. And this isn't just out there in the cosmos, it's in us too.
Absolutely. Joy and sorrow, courage and fear. We have these opposing forces within. And the source points out we tend to cling to the good ones, the light.
And push away the dark or shadow side.
Right. But pushing it away doesn't make it disappear. The source suggests it just gets, denser, waiting.
So real awareness, true consciousness means embracing both.
That's the idea presented here, integrating both sides of ourselves.
And if we don't embrace that duality, if we resist the negative, that's where judgment kicks in.
Precisely. Judgment is described as like a filter, a lens you put over your eyes.
And that lens determines the reality you experience.
Yeah. Judging is basically arguing with what is, insisting the universe should be different. To wake up, you need to become aware of that lens and start questioning it.
Which brings us to maybe the toughest idea, suffering. From this cosmic view, suffering isn't a mistake.
Not according to the source, no. It's framed more like a master weaver, part of the fabric.
One side of the duality coin, linked to growth.
Exactly. It's a signal, really specific feedback telling you something's out of balance, maybe a value is being challenged, or there's lesson ready.
Like the oyster analogy, the grain of sand.
Perfect example from the source. The irritation, the suffering prompts the pearl. So the shift is asking the difficult situation, what are you here to teach me? Instead of, why me?
Turning the tormentor into a teacher.
You got it. And that shift is crucial for getting out of what the source calls the victim narrative.
Which is basically clinging to just one side of the story, seeing only the negative.
Exactly, missing the equal opposite positive that's also supposedly always there.
So shifting from this happened to me to this happened for me, that gives you your power back.
Instantly. The past stops being this chain and becomes more like a treasure map, showing you where you found strength, wisdom, things that came because of the challenge.
Often when your core values were tested, pushing you to get clearer on them.
Right. And these aren't just abstract ideas. The source includes practical exercises called dragon trials.
Ah, like Pebble in the Mountain,
Yeah.
befriending your shadow.
Yeah, ways to actually practice applying these perspective shifts in your own life.
Okay, so from the cosmic dance to inside our own heads, the blueprint of the mind, how does perception actually reinforce reality?
Well, the mind is described as this huge library, right? Filled with all your past experiences, beliefs, judgments.
Okay.
And new information comes in, gets filtered through that library, and that filtering process actively shapes the world you perceive right now.
So, becoming aware of those filters and maybe choosing different interpretations, that can actually shift your reality.
That's the mechanism described. It's about conscious choice and how you interpret things, and emotions are a huge part of that filtering.
Right. The source talks about emotional alchemy, transmuting pain.
Yeah, emotions aren't just random noise. They're seen as messengers, vital info.
What kind of info?
About your values, your perceptions, where you need to grow. Like anger might mean a boundary was crossed, sadness could signal loss, a need to let go. Fear might point to where courage is needed.
Okay, so you understand the message? And then the alchemy part is?
Finding the balance. Finding the equal and opposite benefit in whatever situation triggered the emotion. This is key in the DeMartini work described.
If you only see the downside, the emotion stays stuck.
That's the idea. The charge remains. But when you consciously find the genuine upsides, the other side of the coin, the mind starts to see the whole balanced picture.
And the emotional charge dissolves.
It dissolves, according to the source, because the perception is now balanced.
That sounds incredibly powerful. And there's a link to science here, too. Neuroscience.
There is. The source touches on how trauma can literally wire the brain strong neural pathways. The amygdala's alarm bell ringing often because the initial experience felt overwhelmingly negative, without any perceived upside.
So the charge gets locked in because the brain didn't register the balance.
Seems to be the connection made, yes. But then there's neuroplasticity. The brain can change.
So by consciously doing this work, finding the benefits, seeing the balance in tough memories,
You're essentially rewiring those pathways, dissolving the old charge, recoding the experience. It's a fascinating bridge between this, let's say, philosophical approach and brain science.
and it's amazing how these core ideas pop up elsewhere, isn't it? Ancient wisdom traditions.
Absolutely. The source points to Taoism yin and yang, not opposites fighting, but complementary energies creating a whole.
And Buddhism.
Yeah, the concept of dukkha, suffering arising from attachment and resistance, suggesting that accepting what is, including the tough stuff, is key. Vedanta, too, talking about non-duality, a reality beyond opposites.
They all seem to grasp this idea of a balanced reality thousands of years ago.
In their own ways, yes. It's a deep current in human thought. Walter Russell's work is also mentioned.
The spiral of growth idea.
Right. Seeing the universe and our lives as these rhythmic, cyclical, spiraling patterns, constant expansion and contraction, always seeking balance.
So a challenge isn't just a roadblock, it's a necessary turn.
A turn on the spiral, a point of integration before the next expansion. It's another way to frame life's ups and downs without judgment.
Okay, let's talk about shifting the paradigm then. Part 3 in the source really focuses on values. Why is meaning so important to us?
Well, the source describes values as our invisible compasses. They're like the soul's blueprint. Your personal hierarchy of values dictates pretty much everything: priorities, actions, destiny.
So alignment with values means flow, meaning, and misalignment means.
Struggle, inner conflict, a feeling that something's off.
And judging others hard.
Yeah.
Often that's just a values clash.
Very often, yes. It says more about your values than about them being inherently wrong. The source mentions DeMartini's value determination process as a tool to actually figure out what your true, highest values are.
Which sounds crucial. What about aligning with cosmic cycles? Is that applying this balance idea to time?
Exactly. Everything pulses. Stars, tides, seasons, our lives. Expansion, contraction. Neither is good or bad. Contraction is needed for rest, integration, getting ready for the next growth phase.
So understanding and accepting that rhythm helps us move through life more easily.
Transform struggle into more of a dance, yeah. You flow with it instead of fighting it.
And this perspective helps with fear, too.
Definitely. Fear is framed as a gateway to self-realization.
How so?
Because it signals a perceived imbalance. You're seeing overwhelming drawbacks in something. Your survival brain kicks in.
Which might not always be accurate in modern life.
Right, it can misfire. The alchemy here is, again, finding the balance. Consciously look for the benefits in the feared thing.
And that dissolves the fear.
It dissolves the one-sided perception that causes the fear. The charge goes. Fear becomes a messenger saying, hey, look closer, find the balance here.
It really feels like this work tries to connect different ways of knowing things, mysticism and science.
Yes, the source explicitly makes that bridge, argues they're like two wings needed to fly. DeMartini's approach tries to integrate them.
How so?
Well, ideas from quantum physics observer effect, interconnectedness, have interesting echoes in mystical ideas about reality being shaped by consciousness, the illusion of separation.
And neuroscience is starting to study subjective states more too.
Exactly. So reality isn't just objective or subjective, it's a synthesis. We need both perspectives.
And the tool to use both lenses effectively is self-reflection.
Absolutely. Called the most potent tool. Turning inward. Examining thoughts, emotions, values, perceptions, but without judgment.
Like cleaning the lens you see through.
Perfectly put. It breaks the autopilot, makes you aware of the filters from your mental library, essential for applying any of these balancing methods.
Okay, pulling together the later parts of the material, moving towards mastery, embodying this,
Yeah.
stress is doing, right? Not just knowing.
Totally. Knowledge is just the raw material. Self-reflection is the fire. Integration is actually hammering that knowledge into usable tools. Resilience, clarity. It's about living it.
And things like meditation, breath work,
Yeah.
they fit in here.
Yes, as practical ways to hone your inner state. Aligning yourself with these principles of balance and flow. Cultivating stillness, presence, connecting to the rhythm.
It also talks about seeing beyond just the physical, transcending the illusion.
Yeah, reminding us our senses are limited filters. The universe is way more subtle, energetic, connected, consciousness, thought, energy. These are seen as fundamental forces shaping the physical.
So perceiving that helps detach from drama, gain clarity.
And potentially influence your outer reality more effectively, yes.
Which leads into manifestation and flow. This isn't magical thinking, is it?
Not the way it's framed here. It's more like we're always manifesting based on our thoughts, emotions, values, our overall vibration.
So aligning intention with values and balancing perceptions removes resistance.
Exactly. You clear the inner blocks, then inspired action leads to that state of flow where things seem to happen more effortlessly.
And the ultimate goal, beyond duality.
Yeah.
Becoming the architect.
It's not about getting rid of opposites. It's about perceiving their perfect balance all at once, seeing both sides simultaneously.
And dissolving emotional charges on things helps you get there.
That's the path described, leading towards unconditional love, not just an emotion, but a state of balanced awareness, seeing the perfection in everything, living in flow.
And this applies everywhere. Relationships.
Huge application there. People who trigger us strongly often mirror parts of ourselves or value imbalances. Judging them is projecting our own one-sided view.
So balancing your perception of them helps dissolve judgment.
Fosters understanding, maybe even that unconditional love for them, flaws and all, because you see the balance.
What about purpose and prosperity? Work, money.
Work is seen as part of the spiritual path. When you merge your unique gifts with your highest values, your work becomes inspired.
And that attracts abundance.
It aligns with a kind of universal resonance, drawing in what you need. But you also have to address limiting beliefs about money using these same balancing tools.
It feels like a journey without end, though. The evolving self.
Absolutely. Mastery isn't a final stop. Life keeps cycling, you keep evolving. You have to keep applying the tools, have self-compassion, recheck your values as you grow.
And the big picture. The legacy of the alchemist.
It's not just about you. Living this way, embodied wisdom, unconditional love, aligned with values, seeing the balance naturally impacts the world, your actions ripple outwards.
And the source provides practical tools for this journey. Appendices, exercises.
Yeah, things like the DeMartini method steps, the value determination process, daily prompts, reinforces that it's meant to be actively used. Knowledge is the map. These are the tools to walk the path.
So, quite a journey we've covered. From seeing struggle as just external bad stuff,
to understanding this idea of a perfect inherent balance woven into everything.
guided by this unique cosmic perspective and Dr. DeMartini's insights.
And the core takeaway really seems to be that you're not stuck, not bound by circumstances or old patterns.
You have tools. You can balance your perceptions, align with your values, and consciously shape your experience of reality.
Yeah, this whole deep dive isn't just information. It's really an invitation, isn't it? To live differently, with more intention, balance, maybe that unconditional love born from seeing the whole picture.
Seeing challenges not as mistakes, but as part of your unfolding.
Exactly. Designed for your growth.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to maybe chew on after this discussion. If every single thing you perceive as negative truly has an equal, balancing positive hidden within it, and if unconditional love is simply the state of being aware of that perfect balance, what ordinary moment today, something maybe frustrating or annoying, could you transform into, well, cosmic alchemy, just by choosing to look for its hidden perfection?
That's a powerful question to sit with. Keep exploring, keep reflecting on your own incredible journey.